I want to thank you all very much for coming this evening, braving the impending thunderstorms that we hope don't get here, but hopefully you'll all stay dry on the way home. My name is Bill Ayers. I'm the director of the Center for Global Citizenship. Now the mic is kicking in. I'm the director of the Center for Global Citizenship here at Elizabethtown College, and I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural Ware Seminar on Global Citizenship. What exactly is a Ware Seminar on Global Citizenship? This is part of a larger program that we're putting together. We're using this event to kick off a series of conversations that we're going to have on campus, both throughout this year and we hope going into future years, about what does it mean to be a citizen. What is active citizenship? What is global citizenship? How should we be as citizens in the 21st century? So this is the first of hopefully many exchanges of ideas, and we hope to see all of you back for future events. This is, I think, a particularly good choice to start this set of conversations, to bring in Daniel Ellsberg, who knows a little something about active citizenship. For those of you over, I'm guessing here, maybe an age of 45 or 50 or so, he probably doesn't need any introduction. But since that's not the entire crowd, I probably ought to introduce him at least a little bit. Of course, his landmark decision to release the Pentagon Papers, first to Congress in 1969, and then to the New York Times in 1971, was really one of the seminal events during the Vietnam era. During a tumultuous time, this represented an act of extraordinary courage, a quality which is all too rare in our politics. Less well known, perhaps, at least to those outside the scholarly community, but no less valuable have been his path-breaking writings on the subject of Vietnam and on a number of other subjects. His essay titled "The Quagmire Myth and the Stalemate Machine" remains a staple in the literature on U.S. foreign policy. Many of my students have been subjected to it over the years. Dr. Ellsberg has spent the last several years encouraging the practice of what he calls patriotic whistleblowing, which I think is a wonderful term. And I think it is no exaggeration to say that much of what we now know about the present government policies and what our government is up to is a product, in no small part, of his efforts. He remains an inspiration of political courage and active citizenship. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Daniel Ellsberg.
Well, I was listening to that, and he was saying that people over, you have to be 45 or 50. I don't think 45 makes it, actually. I think you have to be about 52 to have been 17 at the time of the Pentagon Papers or so. The arithmetic, it changes in a mysterious way every year what that threshold is, and I have to work it out. It could be done, but I see that this is not entirely an undergraduate audience, as far as I can make out. And so some of you actually will remember, I think. In fact, how many people do remember the Pentagon Papers? Oh, all right. So that's more than I often confront in college. And it reminded me that just about 10 days ago or so, I was at a ceremony in Berkeley, where I live, where they're giving some peace awards to a bunch of us, KPFA. A peace award means a speech without an honorarium. And, just fine. Do it for peace. And for KPFA and Pacifica Radio. But one of the speakers was, just before me, was Alice Walker, who gave a number of of the color purple, a number of very moving memories, somehow, somewhat rambling like me on the speech. But one memory really caught me because she was speaking about a picture that she had behind her desk all the time. And she went on about this picture, what it meant to her. But the picture was of the mother of one of the three, Schwerner and Cheney, and who was the third? Cheney, I think, was the black guy, the three that were killed. And this was the mother of Cheney. And the expression on her face, she was describing when, as she learned that her son's body had just been found in an embankment in the South, and they'd been murdered on a civil rights campaign. And she was describing the meaning of this expressionless face that she understood very well because a black person has learned not to express emotion, not to reveal herself to the world, and so it's a blank face, and she's just gotten this news. But as I was listening to it, and I got up and I said, and well, you'll appreciate this, and the ones who do remember this period, I know what night that was, and I know where I was that night. It was August 4th, 1964, and I was spending the night in the Pentagon, because following the raids against North Vietnam, supposedly or allegedly in retaliation to an alleged attack on our destroyers, two of our destroyers in the Tonkin Gulf. It was my first day in the Pentagon as a full-time employee. I'd been around there for years as a consultant for the Rand Corporation, but I had just joined the office, and in fact I hadn't been sworn in yet. That came a little bit later, but I was being introduced to my job, which was to follow all the cables and news from Vietnam for my boss, who was the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs, and I was his special assistant. And actually, the reason I wasn't sworn in yet, I'll come back to that, was that there was a negotiation going on with the Civil Service Board as to whether I could come into the government as a GS-18, which was the highest civil service rank. It's the civilian equivalent of between a major and lieutenant general. So here I was at 33, never having worked directly for the government, though I've been a consultant for years. And it took them several weeks to decide that I was entitled to that rank. But meanwhile, I was following the cables, and on my first day, the cables coming at me in the morning were cables from the Commodore of the two-ship flotilla in the Tonkin Gulf, in the Gulf of Tonkin, from a captain saying that he was under continuous torpedo attack. He was apparently giving these cables from the bridge as his ship took evasive action from these torpedo boats. This was 9 o'clock in the morning, Washington time, so it's 9 o'clock in the evening. Dark night, cloudless night, a clouded night, moonless night, I meant to say. No stars, no moon, no light. And he was saying, he would write a cable, 5 torpedoes, 11 torpedoes, got up to 21 torpedoes, which was larger than our intelligence estimate was of the entire inventory of torpedoes in the North Vietnamese Navy, which wasn't a very big Navy. And nevertheless, here was these cables were being run to me by a courier from the communications center, and I was getting them because my boss, the assistant secretary, was with McNaughton down the hall, picking out targets or deciding on what they would hit. And they sent in eventually 64 sorties, that's individual planes, against several targets in North Vietnam. And that was the beginning, the first bombing of North Vietnam, which then went into hiatus for the election campaign. And then soon after the election campaign, resumed on a large continuous schedule, the Rolling Thunder campaign, which went on for 9 years, until 1973, dropping more tonnage of high explosive on Vietnam, mostly on South Vietnam, but also North Vietnam, than we dropped in all of World War II. Well, 4 times as